climate for our students, our schools, and also look, supporting our entire APS staff and district. So really tune in on Monday as we start that progress monitoring. Waukesha, I'm going to get to you in a minute. I'm going to go through some updates first before we get to questions. So that's an important one on Monday. Again, I will send out information, but you can find the progress monitoring calendar on Assembly. Also, August 11th, we have our FMP update. I know you all have been paying close attention as we work through this process, which I'm very excited about. First time, based on my knowledge, APS has done a facilities master planning process and planning for now and the future, and looking at all our buildings, all our properties. Of course, that looks at capacity at our schools right now and then long-term down the road. So tune in on the 11th and we'll be giving an update there. And then with the Carver Cluster plan update. So I'm excited about the work around the strategic planning process for the Carver Cluster. As you all know, a signature program has been selected, STEM, STEAM, but now it's about pushing the information out into the community and talking about, what we want to see in our Carver Cluster and bringing all our schools together. So that meeting, and I'm looking through my update, I know there's a cluster advisory team meeting on October 10th. And I know we are looking at a date in late September and October that will be the community meeting. Is that correct? Anyone on this call can verify? Travis?
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. So
We're looking at late September and late October for either community meetings, but also like community excitement building, like block party, STEAM carnival, things like that.
Awesome. So y'all stay tuned for that. Really want your help in pushing that out into the community. Definitely come, but we want to build excitement around this awesome cluster. Highlight that's great things happening right now, and then all those to come. I had a great visit at Slater this week. There's so much wonderful energy there, and pushing that information out to families in the broader community so they know. Of course, Price and Carver, and then all the schools, Sylvan Hills in the Carver cluster, and bringing everyone together to again say what we have in common, what is awesome and happening, what we want to see more of, and how we get there. So stay tuned for those dates. And then I'm going to pause there for a minute because those are my most immediate, upfront, important updates. That's a lot. And again, I'll send out an email after this with that information. I have a lot of questions and comments, I think, in the chat. I know, Waukesha, you have your hand up. Keith, can you help me monitor questions? So we'll go just with hands up. And if you don't mind calling people out, let's just start there.
Yep. And so Board Member Howard, if I may, because we do have a lot of constituents on the call, how we will conduct public comment or just comment in general is how we've always done public comment. So like Waukesha has her hand up. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll put you into a queue. And we ask that you get directly to your question. We know that there's a lot of content information that you would like to provide, but if we could, because of the sake of time, because we only have an hour, if you guys could just please get directly to your question so that we could provide an answer and make sure that everyone is being heard from, that would be great. And so, Board Member Howard, if you're ready to turn it over to the community, I will start with Waukesha.
Actually, sorry, one thing, Keith, I just was reminded, could people family engagement strategy just introduce yourselves real quickly? I apologize. I'd love for y'all to do that and just say what your role is, because I know you can help answer some of these questions. And again, really appreciate you being here today.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. I've been saying Thursday. This week has gone by really fast. Kudos to day one and week one of the school year for SY 23-24, 22-23. I am Keisha Copeland, Director of Family Engagement, and I have my awesome team on the call who will introduce themselves as I see them on the screen. B. White, Emily Holland, Kyrie Richards, and David Galban.
Morning, everybody. My name is Tom Dorsey, Director of Brother to Brothers Team Mentoring Program. We've been at this for 15 years, so that's all I want to say for tonight.
Good morning. Good morning. I am B. White, and I am in the Office of Family Engagement. I'm a new family engagement liaison, and I will be working directly with the Jackson and Mays cluster.
Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm Emily Holland. I am also with the Office of Family Engagement. I will be providing support to the partner and charter schools, and I'm also affiliated with the district's Parent Resource Center, the Parents as Partners Academic Center.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kyrie Richards. I'm a Family Engagement Liaison. I'll be supporting the Carver, Thurl, and South Atlanta clusters.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Galvan. I am a Family Engagement Liaison. I'm supporting North Atlanta Cluster and Midtown Cluster and also ACCA.
Awesome.
Oh, and I'll finish up Board Member Howard. I think Travis Norval, Chief Strategy and Engagement Officer. So here to help answer any facilities master planning or general engagement questions that I can and take back what we can answer.
Great. Thank you all so much for being here. What an amazing team. I love making sure people know who you are because we have so many incredible people working for APS and serving our students in so many different ways and our clusters directly. So deeply appreciate you all being here today. And with that, we'll move on to questions. Thank you, Waikisha, for being patient so we could do that.
Good morning. Absolutely. Keisha, Travis, Emily, I can't believe they moved you. I'm happy y'all are on. But we gotta talk about getting Emily back over our way now. But good morning, you guys. Hey Travis. I just
Good
morning. Some data that still show. I know I can honestly say 10 years of disparities between the schools. I do want to know what is the board plan for the superintendent, because I can tell you for the last 10 years and looking at where this city are today, we knew it was going to happen. But what is the plan? How are we holding the superintendent accountable for that? And I know you started with the Carver cluster. And I thought I seen another board member on here as well. The decision to close Thomasville, even though families are still living there, and we learned that kids still have not started school. Did you guys think about just doing the right thing and saying maybe we need to reopen this school so kids can walk directly across the street and not have to worry about where they will be going to school? I do want to get your feedback on that because you did start with the Carver Club. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you bringing up both of those things. Going back to the progress monitoring, that is how we hold all of us accountable, including, yes, our superintendent. I appreciate that structure and process because when you're doing it right as a board, each meeting and progress monitoring session is an evaluation of your superintendent. And it's all about us talking about the data, asking questions about what we're doing to address gaps. And of course, also highlighting things that are working and working with our superintendent to support her work as a board. But that's definitely the accountability piece there. So pay close attention to progress monitoring and looking forward to you being a part of that, Waikisha, and helping us push that information out to the community. I went over to Thomasville Heights Recreation Center the other day. I talked with families, appreciated representatives from all the schools in the immediate area with partnership, Slater, Price, Carver, being there in person to make sure families know, yes, register your child now for school. We can get them to school. They can get on a bus. We have 3 buses moving around the area and working hard. ABLF is going door to door. I'm checking in with them today to make sure that all students, even with transition to somewhere else, can be in school now in APS, even with, again, the transition, because families are being actively moved out of Forest Cove. We all know that it's a horrible situation on the ground there in terms of no one should be living in those conditions. So I am closely staying in touch with a whole host of people to make sure we're all supported there. They're all supported there. and recognizing the city is doing the lifting with their partners, that they are definitely being supported financially to do so, and moving families into safe, secure housing. Also, I'm excited about the progress on the community feedback to find ways to utilize the Thomasville Heights Elementary School during the temporary closure. I think we've gotten some great ideas around that, especially around healthcare, mental health services, and even a base to get food out with some of our partners like Urban Recipe and others that work in the area. Also the garden, not South Fork, I'm just blanking right now, garden group there with Swazette. She has reached out to the district as well with some ideas. So stay tuned for that, and appreciate Erica Long's leadership on that from the district level. So I am appreciative of all the partners who have come together to really make sure that we are meeting families where they are and getting kids in school and looking at the short term right now, what's the immediate need, and then also longer term needs and how APS plays a role in that. So I'm going to pause there because I know we have a lot of questions. I'll let.
Hey, thank you for that. Keith, Pierre, can y'all get us these recording like we asked y'all long time ago? It would be helpful if you can put these recordings out for the public. But Keith, I know you was working on something. If you can get that to us ASAP, thank you so kindly.
Will do. All right, so Board Member Howard, we will go to Clentisha, followed by Dion. Clentisha, you now have the floor.
Hey, Clentisha, how are you?
Good morning, everybody. I'm a Benteen. How are you doing? I'm a Benteen mom, and we are right now in the East Lake building, which is going fine. But now we're planning for after-school activities and especially tutoring. And we had some concerns from parents about transportation, where a lot of our parents were walking to pick their kids up from tutoring, or they were kind of riding with other people that don't have transportation in this area. Now we're 5 miles away from our home school. So we know that we could get like the district school bus, but we have to share that with King and Jackson, meaning some of our elementary babies won't get home till like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So then we were told to try to look into vendor approved, transportation that was approved by the district. And when I went on the website to search, a lot of the codes are invalid now. So I only came up with like 2 vendors doing the search. So I didn't know if there was like a good code that I could use so that I could try to find an approved vendor. And am I doing that the right way? Is that what I should be doing to try to, help us out with after school transportation?
No, I'm glad you brought that up. And I know you are always on it and how we make sure we're connecting resources. So if Keith and I, we can get that to the right person and make sure they reach out to you and work through that process. Keith, does that sound good? Because and I'm here to support however I can.
Yeah.
So I will definitely want tutoring back. That worked really, really well. A lot of students and parents really appreciated the services. We saw in our MAP scores that our students do need extra help, and we do think that the tutoring definitely helped with everybody. So we don't want people to be discouraged from putting their kid in tutoring because we can't get them home at a decent time.
No, I hear you 100%. It's extremely important. So let's put our heads together and find the right person to help support that. I mean, we can find a partner maybe who can help with that. So thank you for bringing that up. And I know I need to get over there and check out the new space. I did check in with Dr. Lovett. He said everything was okay. We're good. So I'm gonna keep, checking in. I saw him at the back to school bash. So, y'all, one of my favorite schools. So that's good to see you. But yeah, I will touch base with you separately as well. Just check in. Thank you.
All right, Dion, you're next.
Hi, Katie. Thank you for having this coffee and for all of the staff that's on here to help support this engagement. I think it's really important, and I think it's very powerful what you guys have been doing outside of the 2-minute public comment engagement that stakeholders are only provided. we've been talking about for years the disparities between clusters, and there are also similarities across the district, and that's what binds us. And what we're seeing are these trends, and they're just causing unnecessary resentment within the schools as well as between the clusters. We have teachers and students and parents and leaders. The relationships are just breaking, and this is being allowed. You reference goals and guardrails and policies and go teams, but from clear book bags, overall resources, athletics, dress codes, cell phones, access to special education services and support, and even engagement, we're seeing these disparities that Waukesha talked about. In one cluster, one thing is allowed, and another cluster, another thing isn't allowed. And one thing the leadership, the central office leadership does in one cluster, and another one, it does it in another. Now, I do know that there are differences, and that's okay. But you guys are specifically referencing some of these key things should be consistent across the district. And when we ask about that, in one cluster, you say it's a site-based school decision, and you are to follow the Go Team operations matrix. And then in another, you say, no, it's a district-wide requirement. And what happens is then you build this resentment from one cluster versus another, and we're not solving the actual problem. And the problem is what we're seeing is poor leadership, which is allowing these and then putting fuel on a fire that doesn't need to exist and distract from what we need to do, which is provide the services for the kids, support the teachers so that they can all reach their academic potential, social potential, emotional potential, versus causing these resentment between employees, students, and parents. We really need to look at it. The examples are a plethora. And the documentation to support that is overwhelming and sad. And I think over the last 2 years, the one good thing that came out of it is that parents are uniting across this district, and we're starting to rebuild to make those changes. But we need your help as leadership to stop doing this to our clusters and start addressing these disparities and following your goals and guardrails that you established and built with the Council of Greater City Schools and this superintendent, Dr. Herring. Thank you.
No, I appreciate all that, Dion, and absolutely agree. We have a lot of work to do. And the progress monitoring will be huge in that with the student outcomes focused governance, which to your point, yes, the Council of Great City Schools has been tremendous in that work as well in helping support us develop our goals and guardrails. And now we're going to get into the real deep dive into our data, which also measures culture and climate. And we want our schools to have autonomy to make the decisions that are best for their student bodies. And when you have, let's be real, it all comes down to great leadership in our schools and how we support our principals across the board and our leadership, and making sure that even if you're not a seasoned principal who's been in APS for a long time, you have the support you need to understand and relate and connect with your communities. And it's all about communication and our expectations around the communications, and again, support from the district. So we hear you. I know everybody wants the same things and they're working on that, but yes, it is a matter of continuing to support, press in and make those connections. There have been some changes. Do I like it that we have to have metal detectors and clear backpacks? No. Are we in a state where there are so many guns everywhere? Yes. And is that affecting how schools have to deal with safety? Yes. And I think Stacey Abrams, not to get political right here, does a great job of breaking all that down. So I think those are very real issues that school systems are having to obviously deal with and address. I want everyone to, of course, provide feedback on what they think has really worked and what really is not, particularly around dress code in the right way. Our student advisory team did an excellent job of highlighting issues that they particularly have seen in high school, and these high schoolers know, what has made them not feel welcome. And we, I think, as a nation, have a lot of work to do on changing appropriately. You know, again, you need to come to school ready to learn and to be an appropriate dress where, you know, you're there for school, but also recognizing we have kids who, you know, identify however they might, gender identity, just making sure they feel welcome and included in their school. And of course, not singling anyone out or shaming them. So we all want that. It's a matter of just, again, working with best practices around things that are continuing to evolve. So appreciate the feedback. I know I've received, my girls are at Jackson and they have a dress code, which was just revamped by their Go team. And I think there's some good balance there, but even seeing how that is, you know, being implemented or even how that's even enforced. But again, making sure our schools are welcoming environments, but our kids are coming, you know, dressed to go to school. So appreciate all that feedback. I know that's a lot talked about, a lot and I can echo right now. But know that we're all focused on definitely, you know, continuity where appropriate, support, and clear, concise, direct communication. I'll close that out with saying I'm looking forward to the Carver community meeting and how we're pushing information out to the community and getting information back and direct engagement there. So pause there and go to the next question.
Yep, and Board Member Howard, thank you for that. Before we move on to Mary, I do want to acknowledge that we do have 2 board members on with us this morning. Board Member Baldwin and Board Member McDonald is on the call, and so definitely just want to let the community know that we do have additional board members on the call. Mary, we would now go to you.
Yeah, and definitely making sure people knew because I can't see everyone. Thank you, Retta and Jen.
Thank you for taking my comment. My name is Mary Sagafi. I'm in the Midtown cluster, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge Dion's comments because I think that they're very poignant and very relative to a lot of the parent concerns across the district. I think that the poor leadership currently is something that we have been feeling across and in many different ways across different clusters. And really what it comes down to is I think that as board members, we're really asking you to please hold this, this team accountable, because my main concern right now is communication. And I think that that goes to the previous comments that we've said. Safety is a huge issue, making sure that our schools have transportation that's reasonable. My comment may be small, but for me, it's a clarity issue, and I have been engaged from the very beginning, and so it's important to me. But yesterday, I received a message from the district, and the messaging once again has changed on the proposal for Inman Elementary School. And what I'm citing and what I'm asking for clarification for is, can you please clarify what the grandfathering policy is going to be? And my question for that is, it had changed from the June deck that we looked at, that current 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders would be eligible for grandfathering. And now it is saying that, excuse me, not current, but upcoming 3rd, 4th, 5th graders for the 23-24 school year, which my daughter falls into as a 3rd grader next year. It means that our family wouldn't be eligible for grandfathering. So that's something that we were really considering as a Mary Lynn family. And I would just like a little bit of clarification on that comment. And thanks for the time today, and also for everyone on the call.
Thank you so much. And for raising a question that I'm glad Travis is on the call so he can speak to the specific grandfathering question.
Sure.
Travis, thanks.
Thanks, I appreciate it, and thanks, Mary, for the comment and question. As was mentioned in that June deck, the administration did engagement around the proposal and what the process would be, and that the one outstanding issue that we are still exploring was grandfathering. And I'll say, kind of a side note, internally, we're also exploring the word grandfathering and some racial context that grandfathering has. So we may work in the words like pre-approval or pre-authorized or things like that. But that's kind of separate, but also feedback we heard from the community. So the one aspect of our proposal that we are continuing to talk about internally and externally was on grandfathering. We got a lot of feedback that if we went through with the new K-5, that it was going to allowing that extended grandfathering of 3rd through 5th graders would make it difficult for a new school to gain a good footing, and that it would add more disruption. The standard grandfathering is just rising 5th graders. And so we looked at feedback across the board and agreed on kind of a compromise for 4th and 5th graders, which would be all current 3rd and 4th graders would be able to remain. So half of their elementary school career, 3, 4, and 5 would be able to finish out or start a new school. The schools would still have, those schools that have less than the 90% would still allow administrative transfer. So people can still apply for administrative transfers. The grandfathering or pre-authorization just allows for pre-approval and guaranteed spot into it. And so the recommendation is to the board. We sent out our proposal to the Midtown families last night. We'll share it at the board meeting on Monday. And then the board will approve or alter that recommendation on Monday.
Thank you so much, Travis, for that overview and explanation. So I know you said it's been sent out to families, I guess, on the distribution list y'all have. How are we communicating that out exactly? This latest update?
Yeah, through Infinite Campus. So to all Midtown families should have received the messages, and then on the facilities master planning website. And so we'll keep pushing out information there as well.
Great. And Infinite Campus, I mean, I think everybody on this call knows if you register your child in a school, you're on the list. And did it go back out by text and by email?
Yes, ma'am.
Great, awesome. While we're on the subject, could you talk a little bit about the administrative transfer window? I know that's not your area, but I got a lot of questions about that, just in terms of planning for the school year, and principals who I know are very familiar with that process, but making sure families know that principals have that time to plan with administrative transfers in the window.
Sure. So, and we'll be sharing this on Monday as well. The application timeline will be January 9th, 2023 to January 20th, 2023. And then the general administrative transfer window, which would then also be applicable to siblings of those grandfathered, would be February 6th to February 24th. I put those dates into the chat, and we'll be sharing those out as well once a decision is made from the board.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then, and that, of course, with administrative transfer window information, that is sent out again, is that through Infinite Campus in terms of people getting that information?
Sure. So once following the what happens on Monday, if the board approves it, then we'll start doing push outs to families so that they're well aware of the option, but also a heavy push will be this semester, this fall semester, kind of building excitement in what the new Inman K-5 could be, so that they could be excited about, for those who do want to see what is option and be a part of creating that new school rather than defaulting to grandfathering, that they have that opportunity. So we got feedback from community members to host walkthroughs, because some people have maybe never been into the Inman building and see what Morningside's doing there, and be a part of the development process. So that will be a part of it, as well as pushing out when the deadlines are for transfers and grandfathering, as well as the principal hiring process. Our goal is to, if approved on Monday, to start the hiring process and have a principal recommended by the September board meeting is our goal.
Okay, and that's very helpful. Thank you for that. And then I've gotten questions, and I know I'm hogging the meeting for a minute, but I have gotten a lot of questions about this, and I think this is on many attendees' minds. The time that families will be engaged to provide feedback on what they'd like to see at all these schools that will be impacted, which will have additional space, which is great. I know we're not going to go crazy and pack it in, but let's say for Mary Lynn, they'll go from 80% to 60%, what are the opportunities around potentially using that space for maybe a class for children who are autistic, or maybe a language, potentially dual immersion, something like that. Just when would be an opportunity for families to engage with the district on what is also doable?
Yeah.
Because that's important too, but definitely want to have that be an engaging process.
Absolutely. So as soon as a decision is made one way or another about a new school, and we kind of understand the lay of the land, then we'll start pulling together what's go teams at existing schools, or creating, we call them school launch teams or community launch teams for the new K-5, to start building out like what that looks like, and start getting the right people around the table, and finding out what you want to see in any of the schools. And then depending on what that is, they all have certain timelines. So for example, adding pre-K classes to schools, you may have to submit a request to the state for those pre-K seats by kind of January, February, to then see if you have those seats for the next year. Special education classrooms, I'm not sure their timeline, but each thing that you may want does have a separate timeline. And so we'll try to guide based on what the community wants and the school wants in the building. And then figure out the timeline based on those desires. I also saw a question on administrative transfer. Once you are approved for an administrative transfer, and then definitely it's automatic for grandfathering or pre-authorized if you kind of complete the application by the deadline, you remain at that school for the rest of the number of years you have left. So if you make it as a fourth grader, you don't have to apply the next year. It's automatic. Same if you're a sibling. So once you're approved a spot into a building, even as a kindergartner, you don't reapply each year. You just remain as a student until the final year of that school. Oh, also, sorry, Board Member Howard, there was also questions about administrative transfers into the new K-5. Generally, we don't allow administrative transfers into a new school, so that we can help them kind of create a strong footing with their enrollment zone, rather than adding students into the mix for the first couple of years. But we work with the principal to decide what's best there.
Thank you. That is all hugely helpful, and really appreciate all your work. And I know people have a lot more questions around this issue too, and we'll work through some of them. I want to make sure this is a balanced meeting with people having an opportunity to ask questions about different things. And, you know, we address questions, but we also know that we don't want to get too focused on one particular issue. But is there like a question answer sheet that y'all be sending out, Travis? Because this is a lot of information. It would help me when I got the community, because I try to play you and I'm not so great at it. And then I also say I'm not Travis, so. I can't.
I'll leave that. Yes, we will have an FAQ sheet. We have one on the website for facilities master planning for a lot of these, but as it relates specifically to grandfathering and the next steps of this, we'll develop it as well. One of the first next steps following an approval or what is decided on Monday will be to figure out who can sit on a committee to help select the principal, seeing as this new school will not have a go team, and seeing as the go teams at both Springdale Park and Morningside may be made up of people who don't have students who will attend the new school either. And so seeing how we can ensure that voices from those who would attend the new school are a part of the principal selection process. So that will be the immediate next step on, you know, Tuesday, the 9th, if approved on the 8th.
Excellent. Thank you. And no, we have not voted on the K-5 yet, but we're just talking about next steps. You know, should it be approved? Because I'm getting a lot of questions and I want to make sure there's clarity around those next steps. So thank you so much, Travis, and really, you know, appreciate all, again, your work that you've done on so many levels around this and other things happening at APS. Keith, I'll let you go to the next question.
Yep, our next speaker is Kelly. Welcome, Kelly. You're on mute.
My bad, sorry. Good morning, everyone. And Katie, thanks for hosting once again. To your point earlier, I certainly don't want to take over the meeting with a really like focused issue, but my comments and questions relate to the rollout of the recommendation last night on the FMP decision, and specifically the grandfathering shift. Again, I recognize, Travis, that in the 6-6 meeting, there were it was floated that there might be some changes to the grandfathering policy that had been proposed. However, that meeting did indicate that there would be additional focus groups on things like grandfathering and the administrative transfer process. So my first question is if that did occur over the summer, because I wasn't aware of it if it did. And this kind of just goes to some of the frustration around the transparency in the process and things like this that have seemed to like been a big messaging point throughout the process and then all of a sudden shifted. And again, it's just frustrating as someone that has been trying to follow this and been trying to take a reasonable approach in that we know that changes need to happen. We know that this building is vacant. We know that Spark and Morningside face potential future capacity concerns. I am an Inman Park parent with a second grader at Mary Lynn and a younger daughter. So it kind of goes back to like this, again, I know that we need to fill the schools, but we are families that don't necessarily need to be impacted based on the current capacity at Mary Lynn. So the grandfathering was something that I know many other families were considering, especially for my older child who has had a lot of, she's a COVID kid, like all of our kids are. So I that's a specific question. And then about the administrative transfer process, who is that open to? Is it open to everyone in the cluster? How are those decisions made by the principal? Because to me, I've always understood the administrative transfer to be something that was available if a school was under 90% capacity, and that the principals would have discretion on that. So I just want to have some clarity on what that will look like for families and how that process is governed in terms of like equality and just making fair decisions and things like that. Thank you.
Great questions. Travis?
Sure. I definitely hear, and I saw comments as well on Inman Park and its impact and feedback we've received from the Mary Lynn community and PTA. Grandfathering, we held some focus groups before the June 6th on grandfathering to gather feedback, and then continued via Let's Talk on grandfathering, people submitting individual feedback on grandfathering. We went back and forth on maintaining 3rd through 5th or 4th, 5th, or going all the way to just 5th, the standard grandfathering for school changes, and felt that 4th, 5th was a good kind of middle ground to, like I mentioned, to kind of help the new school start. Of course, as mentioned, administrative transfers would still be available. I'm trying to pull up the process from this past year. If I have a minute, I will put it into the chat because I don't want to misstate that process with you. But I'll make sure to put it in the chat if I can find it. And if not, it'll be a part of the FAQs. It's generally not a principal deciding this student or that student. It is generally kind of a lottery process that's handled centrally. And the principal just identifies the number of spots that could be provided by grade level in the school, and then is held centrally so that it's not a decision that a principal makes on individual students. So let me look on that during the next few questions. Kelly, thank you.
Thank you, Travis. I really appreciate you being here today. And thank you for the questions. I know these are important things that we will be continuing to work through too, and want to make sure we're definitely communicating out and transparent and people know what's going on. I do just want to take a moment to say, I'm receiving all the feedback on how this process has been. Deeply appreciate Travis's work and the team's work on this, and looking forward to there being some shifts in how we engage up front with all our communities as we move forward on the next steps of FMP, particularly around high school. So please keep the feedback coming to me and other board members. And we are certainly passing that along. And yes, we are all about engagement and definitely getting just upfront feedback from our communities about supporting all our schools and all our clusters and how we move forward with F&P, and doing that work in a way that people know what's going on and that we're building trust, that they know we're listening and definitely taking in the feedback and making sure it's included as we plan. So on that, Keith, next up.
Yep, so we'll go back to Waukesha, and then after Waukesha, we will go to Sarah.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Travis, I have a question about grandfathering because I'm I won't say I'm new to the word, but how does that work? Because a lot of our schools was closed and merged, and if our babies moved, they automatically had to go to another school. So are they allowed to be grandfathered into their school? Could they have stayed at their school to keep our school community strong? Or is it, this thing that we're talking about, like a new school and grandfathering? Could you please explain how that worked? And I'll save this too for another meeting, but just a little bit of how that worked for me. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Ms. Howell. So when merging schools, two school communities would come together into one building. And so all those students would automatically go to that building. When closing a school and opening a new school, then the students would automatically go to that school. For creating a new school that takes students from multiple schools, the students from those multiple schools the default, if space is allowed, is for fifth graders to remain so they can finish out their year. We then look if there's space available at that at the home schools to expand that to other grade levels. For the case of a more recent case of like Thomasville Heights, the general administrative transfer process is allowed for everybody. So all schools that have open space, and you can go on, I think even on that same website I put, you can see every school in APS that had space this coming year to accept transfers. So you can go to whatever school you want as long as you can provide transportation and are accepted into that transfer. We did do a special transfer window for Thomasville Heights families because the decisions were being made after the general administrative transfer window. And so we expanded that, I think, even into the summer, where if students didn't want to go to Slater, which was their new zone school, and instead wanted to go to Benteen or to Dobbs, then they could apply for a transfer there. And I'm not aware of anyone who was denied a transfer to a school that they desired to go to. And so that's the main way, but it really depends on how the school is created. But transfers are open for everyone. And check out the website I put in. They have a lot more. Corey Edwards' team has a lot more information.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And Keith, I know we're getting a lot of great questions and very detailed questions in our chat. So I don't know if there's a way we can quickly, I want to make sure we capture those and get back with people, because I know we can't work through all of these questions right now, but I want to make sure we respond regarding or around questions that have been put in the chat pertaining to special education services and other very detailed questions. I know, Kate Sandhouse, you have a question about the principal process and the transition at Howard. I am definitely receiving feedback. I understand, this is a transition, and I'm a parent who has certainly been at schools where we've had new principals coming in, and yes, some have not been from within the district, and definitely making sure we're connecting with our principals to provide them the support they need, so they know the communities well that they're serving, know across the board, everybody wants clear, direct communication, but certainly knowing how different communities maybe want to receive communication too, because all of our communities are unique, but again, communication is key across the board, and we all have a high expectation for clear communication. So I want you to know, I see your comment. I know that, some changes have already happened around certain things, so continue to provide feedback with support. I appreciate the Go team and I believe the PTA too. Working to set up a meeting with the principal, and I know the principal's also having Ms. McDowell a meeting with the school body next week. So thank you all for leaning in and sharing with her what's really worked well at Howard and also what needs improvement too. With a new principal, there's also a new opportunity, and just knowing that we all have a role to play in supporting that process. But I'm receiving your feedback, and we'll definitely share that with the superintendent as well. Let's see, Keith, do you want to try to toggle between chat and raised hands? Again, some of these more detailed questions, I'd really like us to get someone from the district. In fact, not really like us, we will get someone from the district to respond back to you on specifics.
Yep, and so because we are recording and the chat is being recorded as well, a lot of these things I can, go back to and just try to send these out. But if I can, if it's a link or something that I can just drop in, I would do that. But then for the most part, I'll just try to filter the questions and make sure that they get to the appropriate administration for a more in-depth explanation or answer to it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We can work on that together.
Okay.
And, not to pause on the K-5, certainly ask more questions, but know that we are going to have more meetings that get into the details, like Travis said. And there will be an FAQ sheet coming out so that people are well informed about the options and how that planning works. And we know that the district has done it with the creation of Spark. This will be, different, each situation is, but certainly we have the right people and resources in place to make it a highly successful school, as well as all the other elementary schools, which already are in the Midtown cluster. Again, vote has not been taken. Just if it passes on Monday, know that there's so much more information coming. All right, next question, and I am watching the time. We don't need I know other people have other places to be. I'm gonna give it a bit after 10, but I actually have a call at 10, so I am gonna cut it off there. But Keith, take it away.
All right, so we will hear from Sarah and then AH.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katie, for holding this today, and thanks for everybody for joining. I had a couple of questions, and I've been asking this multiple times, and I realize everyone's email is probably just overflowing. So I figured I'd ask it here just for some clarity. I'm not entirely confident that we're getting to the right outcome. And a lot of that has to do in terms of the new K-5. And a lot of this has to do with that we just haven't really seen the data around what were the other options that were considered and why didn't we go with those options. So for example, I sit here, I look at Morningside data, I look at data from Spark. I know they're probably not going to fit in their buildings, although currently they might, but it's pretty close, right? Why didn't we look at some maybe shorter term options, which might have been like a K-Annex, right? We know a K-Annex works already with Spark. Why didn't we think about a school within a school type of thing at Inman for a K-Annex to bring the kids from Morningside to Spark for K or even including pre-K? And then, look at the options down the road as what longer term options maybe we need to implement. We're seeing it's really hard to hire new teachers. We're seeing that it's the principal searches may not be going as well as we would like them to go. So it's just a moment for us to stop, slow down, and think have we really looked at all the options? I'm not confident we have. I don't think others are confident either. I don't want to speak for them though, but I'm to be honest, just worried that we're rushing. And although yes, we've been doing this for a while. Yes, I've been following along this for about 4 years, but it's just are we really getting to the right outcome here? And can we just maybe slow down, implement something that might be shorter term, and then consider the longer term down the road? And without disrupting so many school communities, so many kids, especially in these post-COVID times. And really COVID times, because we're still living in it, but that's for another discussion.
And thank you for your question and just being honest about your concerns. That's important and want to hear them. Travis, you and I can toggle back and forth. I don't know. And again, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time going back.
Yeah,
to the
I get,
entire
and I know there's
process.
a lot of fish to fry here, right? I
Yeah.
totally understand that.
I will say, and I'm obviously new on the board, but I'm not new to APS, and I'm a proud graduate of the then Grady High School, and I went to a very teeny Morningside, and I went to CW Hill, and I had a lot of transition in my elementary and middle and high career and change, which I honestly did great because I had, the supports in the community. And it was a more challenging APS than, let me tell you. But looking at today and the strength of this cluster, I'm excited about the opportunity around this new K-5 and knowing that from the itty bitty Morningside I went to so long ago that Spark was born out of that is just awesome. And I get this is a transition. This is not easy. It has got to be done right with students at the focus. They are the core. It is all about student outcomes and what is best for them when we make this, if it's voted on Monday, change, and continuing to monitor it and support it. And then working with the community to make sure every school impacted is supported fully. So
I've heard that like schools would get additional funding, but I'm sitting here thinking like, where's this funding coming from? I would hate for it to come from a school that, really could use it in different ways, right? Like, I don't know, Katie, I'm not convinced.
The whole entire board is, no pun intended, on board and fully supporting this and doing the funding, which has been done in the past. It was done for Spark and monitoring that over, I know it was done, I think for 3 years, Travis, help me out. And I'll let you talk a little bit about that budgeting piece. But we have the resources here in APS. We are fortunate. And money follows our students with our student success funding formula. So definitely not taking away from any student anywhere. Absolutely not. We need to make sure, and that is equity, making sure our students have what they need to be successful. That goes for children at Slater and children at Morningside. Like our students have different needs. And we recognize too, with our schools that are not Title I, that we need to be focused on making sure all students have the supports they need. That does tie to funding. And it's not just highlighted, or it's not just with the K-5. That issue is more highlighted with creating the K-5, but we know that that funding issue exists. So Travis, but talking about the K-5 and how that could be supported and what we've done in the past, can you touch on that?
Sure, but I don't think it'll get to, it won't convince, I think there's very strong opinions about what's the best use of the building. And so I don't want to kind of go through a budget process where we will adequately fund our schools and our students, and everyone will have the resources that they need regardless of what option is approved. But I understand and feel that it's a much deeper issue on the best solution based on kind of where you see things. But yes, we have resources to fund our schools.
And no, thank you. And that's, what I definitely want to, convey, and know that your board is focused on making sure that the right support's in place. And that also goes back to how the additional space, where appropriate and doable, is utilized for all our schools with, some additional capacity after, should this decision be made on Monday. All right, so we're rolling up on 10 o'clock. I know we have 28 new messages. We are capturing them, I promise, like he said, with recording this. And again, we're gonna get more into what those, additional services would look like after the vote. So stay tuned on that. Any other questions right now, Keith? Hands raised.
So we just have one last question from
Okay.
AH.
Hi, thanks. I know it sounds like in your mind the new K-5 is a done deal, but I just want to reiterate my strong desire to prioritize these current students, not just the future students. I know we want to compare this to Spark's opening, but the type of change that we're talking about is unprecedented, as you're asking for this change on the heels of 3 grades of COVID disruptions. And I don't think we should ignore or diminish the effects of COVID on these kids. I would hope that we could table this discussion for a few years. If you look at the enrollment numbers from this year and the difference between the projection numbers and the actual students, it's likely that we could find a solution where we still fit and disrupt far fewer kids. I'd say let's allow these COVID kids to matriculate. If the milestone scores mean anything, it's that these kids need some stability for their academic recovery. Let's at least allow Dr. Herring's COVID recovery plan to conclude before we disrupt these kids any further. I think capacity is not as urgent as before, and we can wait for real data before making these disruptions, and then maybe create an actual long-term plan where the hiring environment will be a lot less challenging. We can choose actually real quality candidates and hopefully start with Midtown High and work our way down. Thank you.
No, appreciate that. And I will say, you know, Morningside has got to get back in their building, and then we do need to make a decision on this. But it's got to be done right, again, focused on students, with the grandfathering, with the administrative transfer option. I know that the district will support making sure that parents do have options as we grow this school, if it should be voted on Monday. But we're also, we need to make sure we are utilizing all our resources the best for students, and paying for an annex, leasing a space right now. We have available space at Inman. That money can be going to students. That's my focus, is students. So I do believe we have got to make a decision on Monday. We need to start moving through the FMP. We have high school. We do have overcrowding. That does become challenging. It does. And my kids have gone to schools that are 60% capacity, and there's been a lot of more flexibility for teachers and leaders that I've seen in those schools to do additional pullouts and supports for students. A 60%, 65%, what have you, capacity school can be and is a very successful school too. So I will say that. I know you disagree with me, and I just want I want to be transparent with you about where I am. But my focus is making sure this is the best K-5, should it be voted on Monday, as well as every single school in the Midtown cluster, as well as every school in APS. And fully supporting the needs of our students and using our resources wisely to make sure they go more into the classroom than into leasing space from a building we don't own, when we do have buildings and space within, thankfully, the Midtown cluster now, and we know other parts of the city. And that's the next phase of the conversation. So yes, principal search is very critical. When I talked with some Kindler Park families this week, I loved it that we talked about, the feedback from community on, what they want to see in the next leader of this school, and knowing that you have so many incredible people in the Midtown cluster who could be candidates for that position. So I will say that out loud right now. I think it's awesome when people within the system can be promoted up to principal and leadership. And I know you have so many dedicated educators and administrators in the Midtown cluster, and I hear from them that they're excited about this opportunity to continue to grow the Midtown cluster. So, I'll be honest, y'all having so many people in this cluster is a gift. I know it's a challenge, but it's a gift. It's particularly when there's nothing worse than having to close a school temporarily because it would have been left with 65 kids. So recognizing the gift you have with overcapacity schools, but yes, the challenges and how we do it right and making sure we're focused on students. We're at 10:05. Let's see, anybody want to say anything else from community engagement? Or sorry, family engagement, which is community too. Other board members on, if you want to say
I would like to
hello,
say-
offer some
I have my
words.
hand up. I have my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dion. I apologize. I can't see
I'm
everybody.
sorry.
I'm
It
toggle
seems
live.
like we have a lot of issues in this cluster and over the district, and I tried to bring them up in a broad way so it could open up the conversation. The only topic that has been provided extensive engagement, and I think we have some people on here can agree with that, has been K-5. Respectfully, it does impact my kids and my community, but these opportunities are few and far and in between. And I hope that this meeting doesn't end and we can talk about some of those and address them, from the all-girl lineups happening in the hallway, how that happened, why that happened, you and I both know it's not just happening at Howard, to the new cell phone policy, not policy, rule, not rule, district rules, school-wide decision with no go team involvement, to the traditional model of which our children are being isolated with 25 kids in grades 6, 7, and 8. Is that something that's happening across the district? Where's go team involvement in that? The clear backpacks and the kids potentially being mugged out on the Beltline, how Atlanta Police Department is involved in that, et cetera. So I understand that it's late. I understand that we did a 10-minute intro and we've discussed extensively the future of Inman again, and no disrespect to those parents. Again, it does impact my family as well, but we have some other issues and which a principal directly impacts this cluster who has not provided any engagement. So can we please discuss some of these things? I know a lot of new people are on this meeting and they were hoping to discuss them and they're being cordial. And now we've lost this opportunity if you close this meeting down. Thank you.
Thank you, Dion. No, and I did bring that up. And I have passed along the concerns to the superintendent. There will be a meeting next week. I know you will be there. I encourage you to lift up all these.
We have not been told there's a meeting next week. We have not been told there's a meeting next week.
Okay, well, I did see a message that went out, but I will pass that along. that you have
I'm
not
sorry,
received that.
when did that message go out?
I saw that there would be a meeting and I can send this to you separately. And maybe what didn't go out to the entire school body. I will verify that. I have communicated all the concerns I've heard directly to the superintendent. And like I said at the beginning of the meeting, I have concerns continually around, are our dress codes sensitive to all our children's needs and where they're coming from? And we did this work also with the student advisory team, and talking with Isha and others who have history on this. Appreciate the fact the board has given autonomy to schools, but how do we properly support our principals around professional development on understanding even how to be sensitive to all these needs that are evolving and changing for good reasons, because students are bringing up things that are important to them. I agree. My kids are at Jackson.
We have kids that are being
Hold on,
refused
Dion, let me
to come
finish.
to school. We also have kids who aren't getting services, and you and I both know we have a
Dion.
third grader in our community that's being refused school right now because APS has not provided a nurse for that
Okay,
student.
Dion, hold on one
These are
second.
many issues that have to do with leadership, and we need to start having these conversations. It's happening across the district, and these are real issues. You can no longer say it's principal autonomy and then it's a site-based school. It's a district decision. The messages are unclear, they're inconsistent, and we need more direction and engagement around this and what autonomy means and where actually our charter system contract falls and
We
our
don't-
governance,
we don't have a charter
our
system.
goals and guardrails. Thank
Okay.
you.
I appreciate all that. And we can clarify some things. On the nurse, we're gonna get a direct answer from the right person at APS. That is a very specific issue that, yes, could be a issue throughout the district, but I'm not gonna try to speak to that. And I appreciate, Kate Carter, you saying that you did not, that information has not gone out to the whole school body. I will pass it on to superintendent. As well as, I mean, their needs, in my opinion, this is my opinion as a fellow APS parent and as a board member, it seems that the principal has got to have a meeting with her entire school community as soon as possible, because there are a lot of changes and there's confusion. So I'm taking that back and I'm trying to scroll through the chat to see the rest of it. We know there's transition with the new principal. We do. And I completely appreciate people's frustration around what they feel has been a complete breakdown in communication. You're correct, Jan. We need consistency across the district around certain things and expectations around communication at the start of every single year, no matter who the principal is. I agree. And I continue to provide that feedback. I provided that feedback when there was a certain level of communication around an incident, let's say at Jackson or at Howard, and there was not the same at King. I hear you. So don't think these things are lost on me. I pass them along too. I always approach it though with the perspective and spirit of support, because we are all in this together and how we make things even better. So I encourage you all to, I know you already have reached out to the principal, but when the meeting takes place, I know you all will be there and be talking about the things that have been really successful at Howard and what you want to see that brings your entire community together and supports all students and makes them feel welcome. Because she does need, a lot of education on knowing her communities. And I have done that work with principals who've been new to my girls' schools. But I've always done it from a place of support. So appreciate all this. Thank you very much for being very specific about what you received. Keith and I will be communicating this right back to the superintendent. I understand that things are, for lack of a better term right now, on fire because people are very understandably upset. And I completely understand that. So thank you again for lifting up those things. And on the nurse situation, we're going to get the right person to communicate with you on that. And I do not mean to cut this meeting off, but I do have something at 10:20. We will work through these questions and we will get the right person to respond, especially on a detailed level. And I am closely monitoring things at Howard too. So thank you all again for being on this call. And I appreciate people, especially with perspective on Howard, who've been in the cluster for a long time, being a significant part of this process. As we worked through this first week of school, which I'll be honest, it's been challenging, I know, for you all. And I am very sorry that that's been the case. And no, I'm leaning in and I'm pressing to make sure communication is clear. And again, we have some work to do, I think, on the dress code overall throughout the district. All right. Any other questions that are pressing right now? Okay, and I see Lindley. Okay, I gotcha. And I appreciate the GO team, like I said before, stepping up and representing, because the GO team's job is, to be representative of the school body as well as PTA. And I appreciate the leaders in those positions connecting directly with the principal. So looking forward to that happening. Anyone else right now?
Hi, Katie. Hi, this is Jennifer Silver. I just unmuted because I don't know how to raise my hand. Can I ask a quick question?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm a parent of a 10th grader at Midtown and an 8th grader at Howard, and I don't normally engage in these meetings, and I appreciate you having them. And things at Howard this week have spurred me to attend this morning. I understand we're running out of time. What is the best way for us to communicate our concerns? Is it to email you? Is it to email Paul Brown? I sent a communication to the principal at Howard Monday evening with my initial concerns and asked for a reply back at her convenience and never received a response.
I hear you. No, great question. Yes, email Paul Brown, email the superintendent. I'm glad you reached out to the principal first. That's number one. I know Mr. Brown has been at the school. So certainly continue to reach out to those individuals and know that I'm passing along all this as well.
Okay, because it's been my experience so far that the principal has been unwilling to honestly acknowledge what are actual Title IX violations.
I hear you. And I think that needs to be worked through at the school level with the right people, and there needs to be a meeting. I'll just say that.
Okay.
That's
All
a
right.
lot to unpack right there. But just know I'm passing all this along, and I've passed along the concerns I've received. And and to Dion's point, like I think about district wide, like what happens district wide.
True. I'm being a little myopic.
Yeah. And no, you should be. I'm just letting Dion know that I don't think about it just as like one particular instance. This is an example of, and a reminder, how are we working with our principals across the district when it comes to dress code support? Again, want our kids to come ready for school, but we need to be sensitive to so many things. So
Okay.
yeah, continue to communicate with those key people. And I'm looking forward to hearing, the next steps. So thank you. And thank you for joining today. And I'm
Thank you.
sorry. You're always welcome to join, but I'm sorry you felt like you had to join because it's been a rough week.
I'll be
I'm
here
sorry.
more often until things improve. Thank you.
Sure. You can reach out to me anytime too. My email, I will put it in the chat. I think everybody has it, but just in case. And where is everyone? Thank you all so much. I know there's a lot going on. And there's more good than there is not always. And I am thankful for you all as APS parents and all your support and your engagement and your investment. I'm thankful for your children. And I hope that they had a lot of bright spots this week, even in the midst of some things that may have been challenging. And just appreciate y'all's openness and honesty with me. No, I am here to take it all in and press in and do the work as a board member around student outcomes focused governance. And please tune in on Monday or watch it after the fact as we enter our progress monitoring. And yeah, just keep the feedback coming and know I am focused on what's best for your students for sure. And appreciate y'all in this journey with me. So on that note, I'm gonna close this out. Anything else, Keith, from anybody?
No, but I do want to acknowledge, I know we got board member Baldwin and board member McDonald, but I do want to acknowledge that board member Olympiadis was also on the call as well. So she came in after we acknowledged the board members as well. So definitely want to let community know that she's here as well. But other than that, we're good.
Thank you. And thank you, Michelle, for joining us too. I appreciate all of you. I hope everyone gets to just take a breath after this week, which has been a lot for me too. And just enjoy the weekend. So I will see you all next time. Yes. And tomorrow is, I'm doing it in partnership with sponsorship from Mayor Faroki. Unfortunately, he can't be there, but with the Wingate community, Old Fourth Ward, Hope Hill, Howard, Midtown, everyone's welcome. A fun community event, especially for kids, from 2 to 5 tomorrow at the Wingate community parking lot. And give me the street number. I always forget, on Boulevard 4.
Yeah, is it 464? I think. I'm trying to go off the top of my head.
464. It's my flyer that was on my email. So all are welcome. And thank you, Family Engagement, for sending some of y'all coming or sending, who can, and bring your kids. It'll be a good time. And certainly want to make sure that the families who attend, which we expect a lot, will get additional information about resources available to them from APS. And just another great way to connect with our entire APS community. So thank you all so much and have a great rest of your Friday and weekend. And thank you, Keith and APS team. Deeply appreciate y'all.
No problem. Have a great weekend, everyone.